It's sick. It's pissening. It's pants-shittening. It's gonna be a short one because we're about to do this show in a couple minutes. What you are listening to now is essentially the birth of the Norwegian black metal riff. The thing that made Norwegian black metal different from all other forms that had come prior. This is Thorns. Snorre Rooch, or whatever the fuck, I don't know. His band. He's the guy that drove the car for Varg when he went to kill that guy, so he kind of went to jail for a little bit. But more importantly, he did this demo in the early 90s where he pretty much invented a new style of metal guitar playing, built around bar chords and general spookiness. Nothing really sounded like this before, maybe some isolated parts in rigor mortis and macabre. That's about it. Here comes the part right now. Oh, maybe I was wrong. Forgot the extra little thrash bit there. Whatever. It's coming up here. I swear, you're gonna hear it. Here it is. This shit. You probably felt the room get colder right then. Back in the 70s, I think. It might have been NME. It was some English music rag called Kraftwerk. This is a German air conditioner because their music was so cold and mechanical sounding. Thorns kind of did that for black metal, just a general sense of coldness with that very idiosyncratic riffing style of taking a minor bar chord, throwing in all sorts of like diminished shit and sevenths, fucking around with the notes, and then picking them out singly and tremolo, picking them, going back and forth between that instead of just streams of power chords. It was something nobody had heard before, really. Burzum picked on it, Mayhem picked up on it, a lot of bands picked up on it, and Thorns was the start of it all, but they were only really known inside the kind of circle of Norwegian black metal musicians. So what really sticks out for me regarding Thorns is the complexity of their songs and the type of variety of riff types that you're going to hear in any given Thorns song and how it all comes together. For instance, that was Eerie Descent, the most famous Thorns song. It started out kind of slow and spooky like that, but later on you're going to hear shit like this. So you can hear, it's not all just tremolo picks, he's doing some palm muting. So different right hand techniques in addition to left hand techniques. And here's that thrash break, which is still dark and eerie, but also certainly rather mosh-worthy. You hear a little string bend in there too. This guy, Snorre, was a compendium of guitar techniques, all rolled into one. And unfortunately, he went to jail because he drove the car that Varg Vikernes rode in to go kill Euronymous. Whether or not he knew that was going to happen is still a matter of debate amongst the black metal elite. But eventually he got out, and he hooked up with Satyr from Satyricon, who ran a label back in the mid-90s called Moonfog. That was sort of a coalition of all the Norwegian black metal activities at the time. You know, he'd put out like Isengard and Dark Throne and Dodheimsgard and all that kind of shit. But he found the Thorns guy and he's like, listen, I know these guys, they're in a band called Emperor. I want you to do a split release with them where you cover each other's songs, and there's not that many Thorns songs, but there's a couple you can cover. And you sort of like cut each other's music up and give different interpretations, appear on other people's tracks as guests, that kind of thing. And out of that, we got some really great reimagining of old Thorns material for the new age. This was sort of a lot of the outside world's first exposure to Thorns. Let's listen. So here, you can hear him starting out with a droning chord and then moving over a string to hit a minor bar chord and then pull it down the neck. But he pulls it down the neck in such a way that he hits each individual chord as it goes down. So it's not, it's it's na-na-na-na. In the original version of this song, that chord change, the slide was all elided, so it actually was a very smooth motion. This one sort of breaks it up, which fits because this is kind of an industrial metal track now. He did the same thing with the solo too, intro solo here. He's picking out individual notes and he's not sliding them around. So I figured it might be worth hearing the remake before you hear the original to be able to tell the differences. Here is the original version of that track from 1991 with the elisions, so it's not as spread out. It's all a bit smoother. See what I mean? In this case, the notes are elided into each other. So this is one case of maybe the remake, maybe it's not better than the original, but it holds its own and does an interesting thing. It's a new take on an older concept. I think I might like the original a little bit better just because it has this cool kind of Dave Lombardo ride cymbal beat here. They're both great. Here's the solo for comparison. Maybe not. Fuck. I don't even know what's going on in my own clips. I'm so mixed up. Here's the solo. See there, it was a clean slide. It wasn't it was you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, Thorns influenced a ton of black metal bands by essentially inventing a new language of music, if you will. I just read a review of Hava Hedges' Dethrone the Son of God album on Death Metal Underground, Brett Stevens' website, although I think it was written by Niklas Vadias this time. He did a really good job of explaining why Dethrone the Son of God is a great album. It's because it sort of invents a new pattern language for black metal, utilizing older techniques and combining them in a new way. Similarly, Thorns did that and gave bands a new musical language to talk in. For instance, check out this Dissection track. So this riff right here, direct line of Thorns' influence. You're not going to hear this sort of thing on the first Dissection album, which came out before Thorns and Norwegian black metal in general were as big as they got in like 1994. You even have Mayhem taking a lot of Thorns' influence, so Snorre actually played in Mayhem for a bit in the 90s. Him and Varg, so the guy that drove the car and the guy that killed the guy, played on Mayhem's most famous album, De Mysteries Dom Satanas. They're all on that album together with the guy they killed, so Snorre is doing some session guitar work. Then they go to jail, and eventually Hellhammer, who's the drummer on that album and is sort of the guiding force of Mayhem nowadays, gets the other guys all back together, minus Euronymous and Varg and Snorre, because two are in jail, one's dead, and reforms Mayhem, puts out an album called Grand Declaration of War in 2000s, which features a new guitarist in place of Euronymous, Blasphemer, from Aura Noir, which were a younger black metal band, and he took a lot of influence from Thorns. Let's have a listen. Very Thorns riff right here. And the industrial feel has a bit of Thorns to it as well. You probably thought that was going away, but it came back. Really good drumming from Hellhammer, by the way. He took kind of a militaristic tone on this album, which really fits. Kind of a big concept thing about Nietzsche and Stirner and shit. But whatever. Other bands taking influence from Thorns, you've got Manes. This one actually uses a drum machine and a very digital guitar tone to create more of a suffocating mechanical feel in line with what Thorns was doing. You can hear him picking out the notes of that bar chord and generally going to town on it, using very dissonant intervals between each step in the scale. Another example of an industrial black metal band being very influenced by Thorns would be Mysticum. The electronic influence here is even heavier than it is in Manes. These are all Norwegian bands, by the way, except for Dissection. So that combination of very higher pitched, higher register notes with kind of the low shit at the end is very Thorns-esque. Man, if that ain't a drum machine. They actually use one of those GABA style distorted snares to give it that feel. But very good stuff. And then Thorns finally came back with their first and to the date only full-length album, which kind of sucks. Not that the album sucks, the album's great. It sucks that it's the only one we have. But I figure, that's a decent little introduction to one of the more forgotten aspects of Norwegian black metal. I will hopefully see you guys on the rest of this show, unless we all get in a fight and it breaks up. Oh no, goodbye.
What a mind job.